Hi, this is Lonnie here. We're going to run you through the install process for Sprint today. Now, Sprint uses Composer, which hopefully as a PHP developer you're familiar with now. If not, you'll definitely need to take time to get a little bit familiar with Composer, and at the very least have it installed in your system. I always recommend that people install it globally because you'll find that you'll use it a lot once you start using it. It gives you access to lots of great packages out there that are already ready for you to use. In this case, since I've got it installed globally, all I have to do is type Composer. It'll find the application and allow me to run it. Now I'm on a SprintTouch folder on my desktop here. You can see I'm there, and the folder is currently empty. And so now all we need to do is to use the Create Project tool or command. Give it the name of the project. In this case, it's SprintPHP/SprintPHP. This is the name it has on Packagist. Now tell it what folder to go to. In this case, we're going to call it Demo. It'll create a new folder, Demo, inside of the current folder. And we also have to tell it the branch we want to use. In this case, it's dev develop because the master is not quite ready at the time of this recording. All right, so we'll hit return, and it'll start downloading all of the requirements for the application. This includes Sprint itself, of course, and also things like Common Mark, the mobile detect library for helping to with your themes, stuff like that. Give it a second to finish installing here. Next thing you're going to see is it is going to ask you if you want to remove the existing Git history. This is the history that Sprint itself has. If you're going to want to start scratch with your own application, it is not required, and you could easily tell it, yes, I want to get rid of it, because it doesn't apply to your actual project. It just applies to Sprint itself. However, if you want to be able to download the updates for Sprint just through Git, then you will probably want to keep it. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and keep it and say, no, do not delete it. It will run through a couple little final tasks here and cleaning up some stuff just to make sure that you have a nice clean project to start. And finally, generating a default encryption key in your config file for you. This makes sure that every application that you start off has its own separate config, and it just helps your security out a little bit. So we'll go over here, and you see it's created the new demo folder. Here's Sprint. We'll go through the folders real quick. Application is, for the most part, the standard CodeIgniter application folder that's used to, with a couple of additions, like your database folder here for migrations and seeds. A mailers folder, which you'll learn how to use with the mailers later. The assets folder is pretty much just where your images, your CSS, your JavaScript, stuff like that, the application-wide will go. Build file, for the most part, you can ignore. That holds a few tools for Sprint itself, and does allow you, though, to create simple build scripts if you want to have them run as part of a update process on your live site, and don't want to use a third-party tool to do that, and just need a real simple task, and that'll work great for you. Errata is just the licenses that come with CodeIgniter. Myth folder is where Sprint lives. These are all of the namespaced libraries and applications that come with Sprint, including the modules that can be run from the web browser with Sprint. This is your standard CodeIgniter system folder. The test folder, we have, as part of the install process, we make sure to clean up, and it uses Codeception, and it's all ready for you to go. It does not have any of our tests in it anymore, but it does have some of the tools that we use ready for your disposal. Your themes folder is where all of your themes will live. It comes stock with ones for Bootstrap and Foundation, including several different stock layouts that you can use and customize to your needs. You can easily copy one of these folders, change one config file, and start going. The vendor folder is, of course, where Composer keeps all of its stuff. One last thing I'd like to show you as part of the install process is the Sprint command line tool. This provides a number of tools. If you just type Sprint here, silly me. First, before we get to do this, you will need to come through and set up your configuration for your database before we can actually run the install. It will come by default set up with some very unsafe username and password combinations, and with a database Sprint. In that case, this will work for my current setup to show you today, so I don't need to set this up, but you will need to change your database settings. If you were a Linux or OS X user, I would highly recommend changing the Sprint command tool to be runnable. so you don't have to type in PHP every time. But to run this, if we just type in we need to be in the demo folder, that would probably help, wouldn't it? Hey, look, there we go. And there is the Sprint tool that we were looking for. All right. So now if we just type Sprint, it's going to ask you, it's going to look for a command to pass to it. A lot of times you'll be using it for the Forge, which gives you code generation tools. A number built in, you can easily create your own tools there. In this case, though, what we want to do is just simply run the migrations. If we look back in here in the database folder, migrations, Sprint already has several migrations here to create your authorization tables, your standard user tables, settings table, your mail queue, and sessions and stuff like that. Those are not, however, installed as part of the install process automatically, because you may have different needs. You may want to modify those before you create that, and so this gives you that opportunity. But for the demo, we will just run our migrations here and do that by Sprint. It's our command line tool, typing in database, which is the name of the module that we want to run. And then the method that we would like to run is the migrate tool. Now it's going to ask you for which group. You can set up more than one group. By default, app is going to be your only one. It is possible to type in mod : and the name of a module to run only its migrations. In this case, though, just hit enter to accept app. Oh, and it looks like I've already done this. All right. Let me empty that database and we'll show you again. Hold on, be right back. All right, and we're back again. Let's try this again. Run our migrate command tool, and it's going to accept the default app group, and that's going to ask you, do you want to migrate to the latest available version? You could specify an individual name or number of your migration here. In this case, yes, we would just want to bring it up to the latest version. And most of the time, that's what you're going to want to do anyway. So hit yes, and bing. We have successfully migrated the database to the latest version. We are now ready to rock and roll with Sprint. Join me in some of the other tutorials. I hope you enjoy your time with Sprint.